Darkness filled the cabin, broken only by the flicker of red emergency lights. Ethan Cole's last memory was the sudden surge of energy that knocked his systems offline at the end of episode 2. Now, drifting in silence, he tried to steady his breath. "If you're hearing this, you're still alive," he whispered to himself, a ritual to fight the creeping panic. But something had changed. His navigation display pulsed with alien symbols, clearer and more deliberate than ever before. Were they guiding him or warning him? This is episode 3 of Ethan's journey. Make sure you subscribe, because what happens next will push the boundaries of survival and truth. Ethan forced himself into action, running diagnostics by hand since the onboard systems refused to boot normally. Radiation levels were spiking. A storm was passing nearby, invisible yet lethal if his shielding failed. He secured the cabin, sealing vents and diverting the last reserves of power to reinforce the protective layers. Each movement reminded him how thin the line was between life and death. Without shielding, exposure meant hours at most. He had been trained for solar storms, but this felt different. Erratic bursts that didn't match the usual cosmic patterns. Was something manipulating the radiation itself? The silence pressed down heavier than the storm outside. Ethan reached for his ration kit, pulling out a packet of protein paste. He measured carefully, cutting his intake again, now down to barely 900 calories a day. Every bite tasted like ash, but he knew survival meant discipline. His hands shook as he sealed the packet. Hunger gnawed at him, sharpening his awareness of every sound in the ship. Somewhere in the background, the faint beeping of the signal returned, a rhythm repeating almost like a heartbeat. If you were in his place, starving in deep space and hearing that sound, would you follow it or shut it off? Ethan followed the pulse to the comms panel. It was still fractured from the last surge, but the static shifted when he adjusted the frequency. For a moment, a shape flickered on the monitor. Geometric lines, symmetrical, intelligent. Then it vanished, leaving behind a sharp hiss that drilled into his skull. His vision blurred. He clutched his head, convinced he saw shadows moving along the cabin walls. Hallucinations or something else? Isolation was known to fracture even the strongest minds. But these shadows moved with intent, bending toward the alien symbols as if responding to them. Sweat dripped down his temple as Ethan steadied himself. He opened the emergency manual, flipping to the section on psychological resilience. The sterile instructions felt meaningless now. Maintain routine, log entries, identify distortions. None of that explained why the symbols on his navigation screen had just realigned into a star map. Not random, not static. A destination. He traced the glowing points with trembling fingers and realized they formed a path through the radiation storm. A way forward, or a trap. What do you think? Would you trust an alien signal to guide your only ship through deadly space? Ethan strapped himself into the pilot's chair, his eyes fixed on the alien star map glowing faintly on the console. The coordinates cut directly through the worst of the storm, a path no sane navigator would choose. But his own systems were failing, gyros stuttering, trajectory calculations collapsing into error codes. He had two options: drift until the storm consumed him, or gamble everything on the map. He tightened his grip on the controls, whispering, "Show me you're not trying to kill me." The ship lurched forward, engines straining as he aligned with the unknown course. The first impact came fast. Radiation slammed against the hull, crackling across the shielding like a storm of invisible lightning. Ethan monitored the counters, levels rising dangerously close to the red zone. He rerouted auxiliary power from climate control, plunging the cabin into icy cold. Frost edged across the interior panels, his breath fogging the air. But the navigation display remained steady, the alien symbols glowing brighter, as if feeding on the storm. A thought crept into his mind. Was he shielding against the radiation, or being guided by it? His body shook from the cold, hunger amplifying every ache. He closed his eyes for a second, and opened them to find the shadows again, darker, closer. They twisted along the cabin walls, stretching toward the star map. One formed into something almost human, a silhouette standing just at the edge of his vision. Ethan's chest tightened. Hallucinations from oxygen deprivation? Or visitors revealing themselves? He slammed the emergency oxygen feed, gulping a sharp breath. The figure dissolved, but the echo of its presence remained. He wasn't sure what was worse, seeing nothing or seeing too much. Hours passed in fragments. Ethan logged data mechanically, forcing himself to stay rational. The ship's shielding held, barely. But the navigation systems were another story. Star trackers blinded, gyroscopes near failure. He scribbled notes in his journal, his handwriting jagged. If this path is real, they want me alive. If it's false, they want me lost. He caught himself writing "they" without hesitation, as if his subconscious had already accepted the presence of another intelligence. He stared at the page, the word pulsing in his mind like the signal itself. Suddenly, alarms screamed, hull integrity breach. A micrometeor, invisible in the chaos, had punctured a maintenance bay. Ethan scrambled to seal the compartment, his hands numb from the cold. The patch held, but barely. His reserves of repair foam were dwindling. As he finished, his comm panel lit again. The signal had shifted from pulses to tones, a sequence of rising and falling notes, not random, musical. It resonated through the cabin, strangely calming, almost hypnotic. He froze, heart pounding. Was this the first true attempt at communication, or a distraction designed to lower his guard? Ethan leaned closer to the comm panel, listening to the strange melody. Each note vibrated differently, as if tuned to resonate with the very structure of his ship. He adjusted the frequency and realized the tones weren't just sound. They carried data, patterns, instructions. His mind raced. Could this be a form of language? He recorded everything, sketching the waveforms into his journal. The rhythm reminded him of breathing, in and out, steady and alive. It felt less like random signals and more like a presence. Someone, or something, was speaking directly to him. The tones guided him deeper into the storm. The ship rattled violently, sparks bursting from overloaded circuits. Ethan cursed under his breath, hands flying across the controls. Shields were at their limit. Every calculation screamed "turn back." But the alien path cut a narrow corridor through chaos, and as he followed, radiation levels briefly dropped, like a tunnel carved in fire. His rational mind told him this was impossible, yet here it was, saving his life. He muttered, "If this is a trap, it's the most beautiful one I've ever seen." Exhaustion clawed at him. He closed his eyes for just a moment, and vision swarmed his mind. He saw a vast structure drifting in the void, towers of light spiraling like DNA, symbols etched across their surfaces. He saw his own face reflected in alien glass, older, worn, almost broken. A whisper echoed through the dream. Ethan Cole, not alone. He jolted awake, his pulse racing. The ship's alarms had gone silent. Outside the viewport, the storm had cleared, revealing an expanse of stars unlike any charted region he knew. Navigation was offline, dead, yet his ship hung steady, guided by something unseen. The alien star map shifted once more, revealing a new set of coordinates. Not random points this time, a precise vector leading toward a cluster of faint lights. Ethan magnified the view. His breath caught. The formation wasn't natural. Symmetrical, geometric, pulsing faintly like a beacon. A base? A shipyard? Or a trap set for explorers reckless enough to follow? The thought that someone had planned for him to be here sent ice through his veins. As he stared, the comm panel sparked alive, flooding the cabin with static before a voice broke through. It wasn't alien, it was human. A woman's voice, calm and deliberate. "Ethan Cole, you were never supposed to survive." His hands froze on the console, blood rushing in his ears. Someone had been orchestrating this all along. But who? And why? The signal cut, leaving him in silence, heart hammering against his chest. Episode 3 ends here. Subscribe, because in Episode 4, Ethan will learn the truth about the mission, and it may destroy everything he thought he knew.